Wednesday edition of PFT Live. We continue to monitor the Damar Hamlin situation for any developments. No news yet. If there is anything over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, we will bring it to you immediately. The big picture exercise in which we have been engaging for this second hour. Where are the hot spots as the coaching carousel inevitably prepares to spin? We covered all divisions in the AFC, Chris. Let's pivot now to the NFC. We'll begin with the East simply because and it's funny, the teams they're programmed into my mind. East, North, South, West. Like the standings are fused in. Like I have the magnetic standing boards down in my office from when I was a kid. They're in my brain. That's how I think of the team. So we start with the NFC East, and Brian Daboll, safe. Nick Sirianni in Philly, safe. The only two questions there, and look, let's focus on Washington first, just because the team's for sale. I don't think it makes sense to make a change with the teams for sale. I know the team has not lived up to the expectations it was creating during the season, but Ron Rivera is one of the best things that team has going for it because he's captained that ship through some very difficult waters. Distractions from ownership affecting his team, and he still has found a way to win games. I just think it would be premature, especially if you're looking at a new owner in 2023. Why would you want to hire a new coach before there's a new owner? Let the new owner decide what to do.
I don't disagree with that. And I think Ron Rivera, as you explained there, has had to deal with a lot as far as that organization is concerned. He has been steady Eddie to what you're saying there. And, the big thing, too, is he's, to what he said earlier in this year, the quarterback thing has been an issue for them. Plain and simple. And that's not necessarily his job to find the quarterback. He's not the GM. He doesn't have total power there. So I think that's been, the number one issue with their football team is just trying to find that guy that can take the mantle there. And they're not, again, I don't think they need a superstar. Hey, sure, they'd love one. They just need a guy that can play good football. Like we saw Alex Smith a little bit before he got hurt. And we've seen Heineke do at certain points. But they just haven't had a guy they can rely on week in, week out to be consistently good and lead their team at that position. And that's the thing they need to get addressed more than anything. And it seems like they've tried. I mean, they've exhausted all options last offseason and tried to make things happen. So I would certainly stand pat with Ron Rivera.
Mike McCarthy went from constantly looking over his shoulder at Sean Payton to absolutely safe to, I think now let's see how the season ends. They could be the 1 seed. That would be a feather in his cap. They could be the 5 seed and lose to the Buccaneers in the wild card round. That would be a detriment. And Chris, I said this not that long ago. If there's another playoff loss where there is a bright line between losing the game and some sort of coaching error, failure to pay attention to detail, like we're going to run this quarterback draw and we didn't bother to account for the possibility that, the umpire is going to get caught between the center and the quarterback and not get in position to touch the ball and reset it, and we ran out of time because we didn't imagine that reality when we designed and used this play. If there's something that stands out as a failure of coaching that causes them to lose in the wild card round, that I think is a potential problem, especially if Sean Payton is closing in on coaching somewhere else.
Well, I think that's really the big point. Is just it seems unfair to even talk about this with Mike McCarthy, after last year and this year and what they've done. But yeah, penalties, game management. That's been a little bit of an issue through his time there. The way they played in that playoff game last year. You're the higher seed, you're at home, and really, they were dominated in that game. There's a number of things we can kind of go back to and go, well, if Jimmy Garoppolo hit this guy who's wide open or didn't just throw one of the dumbest interceptions we've seen, the 49ers would have won by 20 points easily. So all of that played into it. And so I hear you, I guess, that if it's an ugly loss and they lost to a Buccaneers, or if they were the number 1 seed by some stretch of the imagination and then got upset at home, like you're saying, and Sean Payton does express interest on taking over the football team, yeah, he's in trouble. But gosh, I feel like that's the only scenario. And I don't even think them losing a playoff game should necessarily mean Mike McCarthy should get fired. I think he's done enough there to keep his job and go forward here.
And just so I'm clear, it's got to be a playoff loss where there is a bright line between losing the game and some coaching screw-up, some failure to pay attention to detail, something. Clock management, something that we know Sean Payton wouldn't do. That's the thing that could get Jerry Jones to basically speak now or forever hold his peace as it relates to getting Sean Payton if it looks like Sean Payton's going anywhere else. NFC North, there's nothing to discuss. Every coach will be back. It'd be a shock if any of those coaches are gone. We'll pivot now to the NFC South. We know Carolina's already looking for a head coach. Tampa Bay, I assume Todd Bowles will be back. I know it was kind of like they made the playoffs. There was kind of a vibe that if they don't make the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen in Tampa. But they made the playoffs. I think that's enough for Todd Bowles to get another year, even though he's likely not going to have Tom Brady. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I would say so too. And I think a little bit like with what you talked about with Ron Rivera. I mean, Todd Bowles got put in a pretty tough situation too. It wasn't the easiest. It's a late transition as far as you taking over the head coaching spot a little bit there. Two, the team, I do think, got a little older in certain spots to where they need a refresh. We know, 3 years of a team, that's a lifetime in the NFL. And then I think when you add on the Brady situation, and that maybe being the biggest distraction in football, and the fact that they hung in there and through all of that, I would hope that they keep him and give him one more shot here. Yes.
Yeah, Bruce Arians was supposedly doing him a favor when he tapped out as the head coach in the, middle of April? It was just after. It was late March, early April, just after the league meetings. And that was a tough one, and it's been a tough year. And to get that team to the playoffs, and look, the story still has chapters left in it. They can still get to the Super Bowl. Look, they play like they did against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. They're going to be hanging around the playoffs a round or two longer than we ever thought they were. So that helps Todd Bowles as well. The Atlanta Falcons, Chris, they're just kind of there. And I don't think that we've seen enough from the Terry Fontenot as GM, Arthur Smith as head coach to make any real decisions. Now, I don't know that Arthur Blank doesn't get super impatient and choose to do something, but when you have salary cap mess arising from the Julio Jones,
the prior
divorce,
regime,
the Matt Ryan out of the blue, and you take a $40 million cap charge for him, like what do you
expect?
Expect anything? And 6-10, probably more than you should have expected.
Definitely. Last year, what were they? 7-10 last year. They exceeded expectations last year. This year, I agree. And they were tough in every football game. Like, it was never a game where you just went, Atlanta's getting, just absolutely blown out here. And so you stay the course with him. I think they're doing the right things there. They just, like you talked about, now hopefully they have some wiggle room here to get some big players, to get some sizzle players. They got some things you like that help the base of a football team. But now they need difference makers, and they got to figure out the quarterback situation themselves a little bit. I don't know if Desmond Ritter's the future. I don't think he is. I think they'll look at other options, but we'll see. But I think you said the right things there, and I think Arthur Smith is a really damn good football coach and has been in a lot of games where they won, or we look up in the fourth quarter and we go, how are they hanging in here? How are they doing this? And that's because of Arthur Smith and their coaching ability.
There's another reality to this as well. Their final game against the Bucs, and Tampa Bay planning to play its starters, Tom Brady wanting to play in the game. Tom Brady has never lost to the Falcons, which means the Falcons have never beaten Tom Brady ever, dating back to 28-3 and even before that. If Arthur Smith and company could get that win and get to 7-10 again, that makes it even stronger. That you got to give it another year. You got to give these guys a chance to run a team without one hand tied behind their back because of the salary cap consequences of the Julio Jones and Matt Ryan contracts and their departures. So that makes sense to bring them back. New Orleans is fascinating to me because there has been talk of Sean Payton going back. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but there's been talk. If Sean Payton's going to go back, he goes back there because that may be the only place he can get together with Tom Brady, which would mean Dennis Allen would be one and done. But, they're 7-9. They could finish 8-9. They play the Panthers this weekend in a game that's meaningless for both teams. But, a lot of injuries, and they just may be a quarterback away from contending. But I know you've said also in the not-too-distant past, it just feels like that roster's starting to disintegrate.
Right.
But they did pretty well
they
under the circumstances.
Yeah, they did. And they rebounded here the second half of the year. They did. I mean, he's certainly the one I look at as far as like in the NFC South a little bit to go. I wonder how that situation will play out. I would expect him to be back. I would, and I think again, like you're talking about, there's some things you like about the football team. They've got some salary cap issues. They do have an aging football team as well, so they got to fix that and help them out there a little bit. The defense, I think, was a little bit underwhelming earlier in the year because we were kind of just like, wait, this was supposed to be better, but they righted the ship there. I would expect Dennis Allen back, Mike.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We'll pivot to the NFC West now. Obviously, no change in San Francisco and Seattle. I think Pete Carroll coaches that team at least until there's new ownership, and I believe the team will be sold at some point after May 1 of 2024. That doesn't mean it'll be sold on that day, but at some point after that is when the sale will happen as Jody Allen, the sister of the late Paul Allen, sells off his vast, beyond vast. You need a word bigger than vast for the holdings of Paul Allen. Billion-dollar art collection. I mean, these things are being moved one piece at a time, and at the right time, the Seahawks will be sold. Until then, I think Pete Carroll coaches as long as he wants to stay there. I'd be surprised if he leaves. He's got the energy of a guy who's younger than 51, and he's 71. So I've heard nothing to suggest there's any plan by Pete Carroll to step down. I think he sees it as the dawning of a new era.
Yeah, I would agree. I've heard nothing, no rumor to suggest that. I don't get that feel at all, and they exceeded expectations in a big way this year. So, yeah, I think that stays status quo. I think when we get in the NFC West, we're just talking about one team here when it all comes down to it as far as do they make a change or not, and that's the Arizona Cardinals, right, Mike?
You're absolutely right. Now, look, I have learned, and I don't think I've officially reported this yet. I was maybe going to do it on our Sunday night, Christmas night pregame show. Ho, 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 let's talk about guys who are getting fired. We decided not to do it. Remember they got that contract through 2027.
Yeah.
Kingsbury signed through 2027, but how much of it is really guaranteed? I'm told it's guaranteed through 2026. So that's still 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 years that you got to pay Cliff Kingsbury not to be the coach. And the Cardinals fall on the more careful with money side of the overall group of NFL franchises. So I don't know if they want to do that. And Steve Keim is on a leave of absence. Who would help Michael Bidwell pick coaches? How would they even begin to put a search together? How attractive is that job right now? You got to pay Cliff Kingsbury to go away, and you got to hire somebody else, and you don't know who the GM is going to be. I think it's just too many moving parts to make a change, with the Kyler Murray injury being, to me, the tipping point that gets you to say, we just have to give this one more year and just hope that we can make it better.
I think it's fair, certainly, to discuss this one. I mean, there's some optics and some things that don't look great there. But I think, big picture, too, they have been relevant, right, the last few years. They were in the playoffs last year, even though it was a crappy way to end the year and it didn't look good. And, you'd like more out of the offensive side. But I think, like you kind of said it right, with some of these surrounding circumstances and the guaranteed money, even though if I think, maybe you should, change course a little bit, or I don't like the way it looks, it feels like they're going to stay with what they got there. But I certainly think this one is one where you could think about, and a change would not shock me, or do I think it necessarily would be totally wrong?
The question always is, are you going to be better if you make a change.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the cash, or if you're not willing to spend the cash to buy out Cliff Kingsbury and hire an A-lister, go after Jim Harbaugh. You want to be better. You dealt with him in the division. Bring him back. Wouldn't that be something? Jim Harbaugh back in the NFC West, dealing with the 49ers twice a year, dealing with his buddy Pete Carroll twice a year. I'd sign up for that. That's awesome. But again, that's the kind of money that I don't think they're going to be able to spend. Now, the Rams are the one team we haven't mentioned. We got a couple minutes left. I just want to throw this by you, Chris, because there's a belief that Sean McVay's opportunity to smoothly jump onto the good ship Jeff Bezos came and went. And if we were to attach him to a lie detector test or ply him with tequila, he would admit, I wish I would have gone, right? My window was open to make $20 million a year, to not talk about football, and to not tarnish my Super Bowl win with the worst record that any Super Bowl champion has had so far. If Bezos and company say, we'll do a three-man booth, Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Sean McVay, we'll get some couch cushion money to get Sean McVay for $20 million a year. Do you think McVay would do it now?
I don't think he would. I don't. I still think this is a guy that's got passion for football, pumping through his veins there. And I honestly think this type of year where, they were below expectations and all that is only going to ignite the fire a little bit more, at least just with what I know of the guy. So that would be my 2 cents there. Nor do I think he would love a three-man booth. I don't know. I think he'll be back. I do. I think Sean McVay will be back as the head coach of the Rams.
It's going to be interesting to see. And also, there's a little shine off McVay after last year, too. I don't know that Jeff Bezos will be scouring the couch cushions for the $20 million to try to get him. Last year may have been the opportunity. He may have to win another Super Bowl before that ship comes in again. And another wrinkle that we will discuss on a different day, Chris, I took a look at Matthew Stafford's contract.
Yeah.
I took a look at the guarantees that vest in March.
Right.
The cap hit that they have to deal with this year, the injuries he's had. Boy, I can't help but wonder whether or not they're thinking there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that are available. Is now the time to make a move? Stafford said he's not going to retire. That's a topic for a different day. But they got some issues to figure out with this Rams team a year after winning the Super Bowl.
I would think so. I mean, yeah, there's some holes to fill. They got some aging players, aging stars that they're giving a lot of money to. And I understand. I mean, yeah, we'll talk about this on a different day. I would think they're stuck with them at least for one more year, but I would think there's some concern there.
We appreciate your patience. We appreciate you. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See ya.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.